Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new video. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 biggest personal life challenges I had to overcome to get to where I am today. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bastiaan. I'm 25 years old, and right now my net worth is at 15 million. I run a couple of companies. One of them is appointmentsetter.com, where I help coaches. I also help people become appointment setters. But it didn't, of course, start there. I started many years ago when I was actually in a supermarket job. And even way before that, I was facing very heavy personal life challenges that I'm going to be sharing with you. And the reason why is because I don't believe that just business and tactics is going to take you to where you want to be at. It's going to be becoming a better person, setting higher standards for yourself, overcoming life's challenges, facing the darkness, facing the fear, and then with that, of course, coming out stronger than you've ever been before. So for me, the first big challenge that I ever faced in my life, which I never saw coming, was the passing of my mother. And this happened in 2012. My parents were actually divorced, and it was my dad's time to spend some time with us, and we went to Belgium for a little trip. And then I remember that during an afternoon, we got a phone call that my dad was taking, and he was looking at me with a very confused, sad, shocked face, I recall, which is crazy because it was like 13 or 12 years ago. And, he sat me down and my little brother, and he basically told me that our mom, Leonard, is in the hospital, and she had a brain hemorrhage, which she had a chance of surviving. So we went immediately from Belgium to Amsterdam. And it was, a shock because we went there right after it happened, and then we arrived at like 11 p.m. I think. And then I remember that we went to the hospital, but we weren't allowed to see her because she just had another brain hemorrhage, happen to her, which, yeah, obviously is a sad topic to speak about. And then the day after, she was declared brain dead, which means that even if she were to survive it, she would never be the same. So she passed away not long after, and that put me in a state of shock for 10 years straight. Because when I came home, all my life consisted of was gaming and one meal a day, which was the life that I lived for many, many years, which is very, very hard to get out of. And this was a huge challenge because I was just 12 years old. I really believe the way I've overcome it is through time, right? I went through heavy grief for many, many years, and my stepmother always supported me. My dad always supported me, and that was very helpful because without that, I don't know what would have become of me. But if there's something good that happened from that, though the situation in itself, there's nothing good about my mom passing away, is that it gave me a drive to become a better man, a better person, and it gave me a very strong energy when I was in my 20s to find success. Because every time I was in the gym, I'd think of my mom. Every time I was going through a challenge, I was thinking of my mom. Every time something happened that was hard, I just think of my mom. And to this day, I still think of my mom. I think losing a parent is something that will inevitably happen, but I think at a young age, it's very, very hard, especially when you're 12 years old, you're going through a divorce. So that was the first big life challenge I had to overcome, which took me 10 years to really overcome. Because even 8 years later after her passing, if someone would just mention her, I would start to almost tear up, because I would think of the situation of when she passed away. So I will not go too deep because I want to keep it at the lessons, at the challenges, and what I've learned from them. And losing a parent, I don't really think there's a lesson behind it. I really think it's the consequence that happens after, which is, how do you move on in life, right? Which the biggest lesson I've learned is take your time with grief, use it as an energy to rebuild, not to destroy, right? Because I also know a lot of people that lose people that they love, and they go into drugs, they go into alcohol, they go into just a sad state, which for me, I did the opposite, and that's how I've got the life that I've built today. Big thanks to my mother. So that was the first big life challenge I had to overcome. The second one was in 2019, which was my parents, I'm just gonna abbreviate this, but not believing in me. Because I was starting my marketing agency and I was also studying, and I remember that I just had no desire to study whatsoever, and I really wanted to like become an online entrepreneur, make money, help my parents, and always in my notes I had my mom. I want to make her proud, I want to take care of the family. And it was very hard when I started to find some initial success. And for those of you who know my story, right, like I first started with a marketing agency, then I was able to get 2 clients in the door in a 3-month time frame. And then I also, as I closed my second client in March 2019, I got an appointment setting opportunity. And that was making me really good money and allowing me to build the freedom that I had always desired, right? And there was one thing that happened after a month of success winning that remote appointment setting opportunity besides my agency and besides my college, which was they asked me to come out to Serbia. And I was of course studying and living in the Netherlands. And they pretty much asked if I wanted to come. And I said, hell yeah. Because, you know, for myself, I was like, I don't want to study. I don't want to have the supermarket job. I really don't like the life that I've got here. I'm grateful, but I don't like what I've got here and where this is going. And so I told my dad, like, hey, I got this opportunity and an invitation to come to Serbia to get into this opportunity and make more money. And they didn't believe in me, which didn't come from the fact they didn't believe me. Like they just wanted to have me take the path that was most safe and familiar to them and they knew was best, right? And so it really hurt me when the day I left before I went to Serbia, because I had a long conversation with them, and then eventually I booked a ticket, dropped out of college and quit my supermarket job all in a 24-hour time frame. And they still, before I left to the train station, they did give me a hug and say they're proud of me. But that was rough because I knew there was like this middle line of like, they just didn't know if it was gonna work out, right? And not only that, like that their son, and for my stepmother, right, like I'm her stepson, that he's gonna go to a country that they've also never been to and I've never been to Serbia, which is like why I've got, you know, great history and a lot of love for Serbia and Serbian people, because I think it's a great place to live in, besides the air pollution. So the biggest way I overcome this challenge, or I overcame this challenge, was by taking risk and believing in myself. And in the end, it worked out. You know, because your parents are not gonna believe you just saying things that you are gonna do. Like, they need to see it for them to believe it. And so I went to Serbia in April 2019, and I went there for 7-8 months. I got a 10K per month, restarted my agency, all that stuff that you can find in another video where I cover my story more in depth. Just want to keep this high level. And you know, then when I came back in the same year in December, I bought my dad a Rolex. I got myself a girlfriend who I'm still with, Danique. We've been together for almost 5 years now. And my life changed because I took the risk. But it was very hard because, again, if you have a good relationship with your parents, especially what they've helped me overcome with my mom, and of course they've raised me and everything, right? Like they put the meals on the table, they've paid for my education, they've shown me love, they put me onto this world, they put a roof over my head, like all these things, right, that we don't really always factor in up until we reflect or we're in a state of gratitude. But that was very hard at the beginning. So my parents not believing in me. Now, the next big challenge that I faced later, because I lived in 2019, January, April in Netherlands, and April to September in Serbia, and then I went back in September to the Netherlands, and that's where I met my girlfriend. And then we moved back to Serbia after I met her for 3 months. We moved to Serbia together in 2020, January. And so that's when the next big challenge arose, which is a really personal one, which was jealousy. Let's see. And when I say jealousy, right, like it can mean a lot of things. I mean jealousy in my relationship, because I noticed I was very insecure, to be honest. Because though I was making good money and I was becoming successful in that aspect of life, I was a very weak and feminine man. Well, very feminine is a bit of an exaggeration, but I definitely wasn't what people consider masculine, right? So I noticed that when was this? This was 3 months into our relationship. And I don't think like any man likes admitting this. Not every man goes through it, but I think it's widespread and it can cause destruction in a relationship. It's good communication, and if there's jealousy, like that, you talk it out, right? So I noticed if a man would walk up to her just to talk to her, I would feel like some sense of insecurity and an intense feeling of goosebumps where I think she was gonna cheat on me, right? And that I struggled with for many, many months. And jealousy is such a toxic feeling, and it's not logical because it's just purely emotions running over you with a lot of negative assumptions, negative thoughts behind it. And fortunately, through good communication, I've been able to overcome that same year, and ever since it's never been an issue. But that almost destroyed my relationship. And I'll say this too, like in the past, like before 2020, I used to be also not, like the typical gamer. You game a lot, your diet is trash, either you're really fat or you're really skinny, and you watch PORN, right? And I believe because I did that for a long time, many years ago, that insecurity and logic of the world when a male and a female come together, and then I actually got into a healthy relationship, that really just put a heavy weight on me, which fortunately, again, I have been able to overcome, which I'm very, very happy with. And that was the biggest challenge in our relationship that we have been able to figure out. And I plan on being together for the rest of my life with my partner. So those are the 3 big challenges that happened over the course of 8 years. And I have 2 more I'm going to be sharing with you. So the other challenge, the 4th one, and this one really happened and I saw more and more come up in 2021 with ego. So the killing and the death of ego. I know that when I see other people be successful, I was very happy for them and always have been. But then when I started to climb the ladder myself, I built up this ego because people were always saying Bas, you're a killer, you scaled to 500K per month so fast, and then we scaled to $1 million a month. And then if I see people go beyond that, I just felt my ego come up and be like, oh, that's not special. I probably know what they're doing, right? Or if I'm talking to my partner or to, well, not really friends, but maybe a team member or whoever, right? And they'd be right in a situation, I'd come up with maybe a sentence or a reason why what I think is better or why maybe they're not right. And that's ego, and it's a very hard thing to recognize and admit. Same with jealousy, and that's why I've been just killing that BITCH as a trait. This is a horrible trait. Everyone has ego. If you say you don't have an ego, that's ego, right? So one of the biggest things that I am constantly aware of with myself, I repeat 3 things always to myself, which is no ego, no negativity, and last one, and I do this to have a healthy mindset, right? No judgment. And I think they kind of go hand in hand with ego in a way. Because when you have one of these 3 or all 3 in your life, it just makes your life bad. The quality of life just diminishes and declines. So be aware if you're thinking about a person or you're looking at a reel or you're seeing someone on the street and maybe you're judging them, this is really bad. This is gonna affect your confidence heavily. Negativity, same thing, right? The news is full of negativity. It's being normalized when this actually hurts your mind and your way of thinking, your decision making, your leadership, like everything. It just makes everything worse, you know? And the same with ego. So one thing that I've been constantly aware of and made more and more and more aware has been ego. And whenever that comes up, I just don't say anything. I just remove the feeling behind it, and then I remove how the person that I want to be would respond with love, empathy, of course being truthful. Like there's a difference between being a people pleaser and being a man that can respond or reply with respect, right? So ego has been a big one. And I'd say underneath that, another big one has been, which is the last big challenge, leadership. Because right after we hit 1 million in a month, I realized that I was mainly a good marketer and not a really good leader. And the reason why I say I don't believe I was a good leader is because whenever my appointment setter would make a mistake, I screenshot the mistake and I said, dude, what the heck is going on here? Like, what is this? Or if my sales rep wouldn't show up to his call and maybe he wouldn't respond, I immediately assumed that he's like neglecting his role and he's just BSing and I should fire him. And I respond with that energy. And I've learned so much in 2023 and this year that people now love being part of our organization. They feel so motivated, they feel so safe, respected. And however, instead of like talking about the good, let me talk more about the bad. So that was the big thing that I struggled massively with, because there's a big difference between being a good marketer and a good leader, right? In my opinion, a good leader is serving his people, leading by example, being compassionate, being patient, being harsh when you need to be. Like I know that when there's maybe tough conversations around the horizon, a lot of coaches that I know, like they'll just not address it until like it stacks so much, all the bad, that they're forced to give like an intense response. So leadership goes both ways. Like it's push and pull, right? Like pull in the sense of you give them compliments, you give them vision, you give them motivation, you like all these things a good leader would do. And then like push is if someone isn't doing the things they should be doing and they're underperforming, that too gets addressed, but respectively, right? So perfect example would be like one of my reps, I'm not gonna name his name, but he no-showed a call because he overslept. And I told him like, hey man, so look, I believe you're a killer rep and you've been doing great the last 7 days, but the way you've started today and this other thing too that happened is honestly unacceptable, right? So the best way to move forward from here is I'd like to chat with you in a quick huddle to see how we can, address the situation appropriately and also create an aligned pathway forward, right? So that's a situation, and obviously the situation should be addressed based on like, the good versus the bad that the team member is doing. Because if that's been happening for like months, obviously a more intense response is appropriate. If that's a one-time thing, like just drop a message or a voice note or jump on a quick huddle and just address it very subtly, right, instead of intensely. So leadership was a big thing, and I took some notes here. The biggest things that I struggled with was confidence, stress, a lot of stress, and emotional control, right? So emotional control is where it starts, right? Because if you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your responses or really orient and reflect upon the actual situation and then how you should respond appropriately to it. And then of course with that comes confidence, right? Because you're controlling yourself and the stress too gets mitigated. So I'd say those are the 5 biggest challenges that I had to overcome to be more successful. Obviously I faced dozens and dozens more challenges, but in essence, these were the 5 biggest ones that I would say that were recently on my path, especially these last 2. And I think everyone's challenges are very individual. And with that, you just want to make sure that you work on it, you become a better person. So that being said, I hope this video was valuable to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.